Expressive Avenues Wellness Practice for Active Aging Adults supports STAC, which is the acronym for the Scaffolding Theory of Aging and Cognition. So, how is Expressive Avenues Wellness stacking up? In Part 1, Expressive Avenues Wellness practices shifting attention with exercises like ball toss. Participants go from focused attention, what do they need to accomplish, to open attention, what does the group need to accomplish? The exercise coordination flow creates a dissonance between left and right, so that participants strengthen their ability to shift their focus between concurrent tasks. Now remember, shifting attention between concurrent tasks is the phrase I use instead of multitasking, which is now widely considered to be a myth, and I think it's misleading. Concurrent tasks may not roll off the tongue as easily, but I think it's more accurate. And moving meditation combines it all. Focused attention on the 12 individual steps, concurrent task shifting between upper and lower body, and moving meditation adds a global or holistic picture of the entire movement. 2 complete cycles on the right and the left. Building a strong scaffold also means practicing moving their corrected physical alignment in the external world and their internal alignment. The exercises gaze, spatial awareness, and breathing basics establish muscle memory, reinforcing the connection between mind and body. In Part 2, participants' gaze broadens, neurons connect, and new areas of their brain become energized. The spatial awareness games practice that connection. When your body moves in that better alignment, your brain and your muscles start working together more smoothly. With repetition, your nervous system learns the pattern, so the movement starts to feel more natural and effortless. That's muscle memory. And breathing basics connects internal diaphragmatic breathing to external physical practices. Part 3 introduces creative recall. Now, in general, creative recall is a mental process, but Expressive Avenues Wellness has taken that process and broken it down into 3 distinct exercises. Object retrieval, which is primarily image-based, was introduced to the practice beginning week 13 and then continues weekly, gradually increasing the cognitive load by doing things like increasing the number of objects a participant would place, changing that location in mid-class, and comparing the difference in recall between writing down the location in their journals to creating and holding a mental image of the location in their mind. Take that object and to place it somewhere in the room and leave it there. Make a mental note of where that object is, then gather back together to begin the warm-up. Now, ask the participants to stop in a neutral position and remind themselves of where the object is that they placed in the room, and to now go and retrieve the object and then come back. Semantic fluency, which is primarily linguistic or words, was introduced in Lesson 29. Semantic fluency practice can be done as an individual or with a group. Space for semantic fluency is on page 21. This gives participants a tangible vehicle for comparison when the game is repeated. Then ask participants to choose a category, like, for instance, animals. Then, once you give them the signal, they're to write down as many different animals as they can think of. You'll set the timer. You'll start the timer and they'll begin. And then you will stop the timer at 60 seconds. Now, most groups really like this exercise, and you can of course repeat it with other categories, endless numbers of categories. Once I introduced this exercise, I used it whenever I sensed that the group needed a break. And image recollection, which is primarily sensory. We start by asking all the participants to have a seat around a table and put their hands behind their back so that you can place a small object in their hands without them seeing. Then, taking turns going around the table, ask each participant to describe what they feel in their hand. Not what they think the object is, but what do they feel. For instance, one object might be a coin. Most participants will recognize what the object is immediately. But remind them that the goal of this exercise is not to guess what the object is, but to describe how it feels. Next week, part 4, blocking, stair-stepping, and improvisation. Part 4 of building the neural scaffold is blocking, which is the term actors use when they're given directions about where to move on stage. We used an exercise I called stair-stepping, and then we introduce improvisation. Now, for this wellness program, improvisation is not charades or a fun party game that you use to make people laugh. Like, whose line is it anyway? It's not that. Now, the guardrails for Expressive Avenues improvisation are the same as regular improvisation. A participant accepts whatever is introduced. They incorporate that into the improvisation. A participant can add themselves in whenever they have an idea. They immediately get up and add themselves into the improvisation. But the primary goal is not to entertain an audience. The primary goal is to create an imaginary world and to create that so clearly that their reactions reflect that reality. It's about imagination based in reality. So that requires creative recall, sensory memory, muscle memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. In short, all of the skills we've been practicing. Now, that's not to say that improvisation can't be fun. In fact, it usually is. Participants really like this, and it creates those intangibles, things like teamwork and camaraderie. Blocking is the term used to describe the precise movement of actors on stage. Blocking and the perspective that it establishes practices physical movements within a given framework. Blocking is from the actor's perspective on stage as they look out to the audience, or in this instance, from the participant's perspective as they look out into their world. Actors develop keen spatial awareness. Once the terminology and framework are learned, the participant's awareness grows. But being comfortable with that terminology and that framework is a big cognitive load increase. And so we start this in a very methodical way. We take it step by step, making sure that participants have integrated completely the blocking terminology. But then once that happens, that awareness and that presence that they feel gives them great confidence and improves their presence and their attention to what they're doing and where they are, what's going on around them, and what's going on inside them. Now, the next cognitive load increase is facing directions. Which direction are they facing within that given area of the stage? For instance, are they facing downstage? Are they in the center stage, but are they facing downstage? Are they stage right, but are they facing stage left? So once you begin to incorporate the facing directions with the blocking terminology, that's a 2-step process that increases the challenge. Well, stair-stepping is primarily a functional exercise that practices lifting your leg and your foot when you're walking and stepping on stairs. When you add to that repetitive movement, questions like, what is the shape that your body is cutting in space as you're making that step? How does that feel in your body when you make that movement? That develops their kinesthetic awareness. When we add a blindfold on top of that, it shifts their brain's reliance on what is, for most of us, our dominant visual sense to the less dominant kinesthetic senses. That process is called cross-modal plasticity. Here's how I started. First, locate a stairwell. Place a hand on the handrail. Stand in a neutral position. Weight on both feet. Tap your feet on one of the first 4 steps, returning to the floor each time. Keeping your gaze forward. Remind them to use their eye muscles, not their neck, to expand their awareness. Ask them to visualize the shape their body is creating as they're stepping. And what does that shape remind them of? I had one participant say, in particular, when we began to step on the 3rd and 4th steps, that it reminded her of a deer leaping through a field. And so that is what she used as the image to guide her when she was stepping, and then as we added the blindfold. Now, the facilitator will call out random steps, 2, 3, 1, and the participant responds. And when we add the blindfold, remind them to clearly recall how this exercise felt and the image that feeling brought to mind. So they're using their mind to see, and probably their sense of touch, not their visual sense. And so start low on step 1. And then I moved up to step 2. They should concentrate on how their body feels at each level, on each step. What picture do they imagine that their body is cutting in space as they are moving their body in this stairwell? Always holding on to the stairway, to the stair railing for security. Notice the difference between how step 1 feels and, say, step 4. How does that feel differently in your body? Recalling that image, recreating that mental picture, and relying on the sensory perception of your body. Now, when you introduce improvisation to your group, go back to weeks 20, 19, 20, and 21. And I talk in detail about the way to set this up for your group. And once you've got those guidelines in place, let them have fun. Let them be creative. Encourage them to completely commit to this imaginary world that's been created and to respond and react as they would naturally. All of the benefits that they're going to get from doing this, the benefits to their mental flexibility, to their kinesthetic awareness, and their physical perception, all of those things happen, but their focus should be on their objective in the improvisation and clearly holding that imaginary world in their mind. There's also an article on my Substack titled An Invitation to Play. And if you tried out this add-on improv with a group, be sure to let me know how it went in the comments section. Now, those are just some ideas for scenarios. Your group may come up with completely different ones. I would love to know what they are. So, 12 games and exercises designed to keep your participants and you mentally sharp and physically confident.